from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
I don't know if any of you remember, maybe this was just me. When I was in grade school at Queen of Heaven, we watched a claymation series called Davy and Goliath. Does anybody remember that with the dog?
I do remember that.
And the dog was always like, I don't know, Davy. Like, Davy was always trying to get into trouble. I think that's what it was in Goliath. The dog who could talk was always trying to bring him back. Right? I don't know. Do you
I do remember that.
There were moral stories, right?
Right.
Like,
because dog is God spelled backwards.
Is that what it was?
I'm just guessing.
Oh my gosh, you've never heard of Davy and Goliath? They were like a little short. I remember we watched them and I don't know.
I remember seeing them.
In my head.
They did exist.
And
you remember far more details about it than I do, Pete.
I don't know, Father Rob. No. Well, now they have Veggie Tales, which I don't know. I've heard.
My niece and nephews. I think that was their early formation was Veggie Tales, and then
they're hysterical.
They are, and then we got Jack. We got Jack into it a little bit, but it didn't last as long as I think they'd kind of gone out of vogue by the time Jack was a kid. But those Veggie Tales were a great starter drug for Christianity for babies. For young children.
You just say starter drug?
Yeah, sure.
I guess. I don't...
Evangelization at its most basic form.
Exactly.
Starter drugs.
Exactly. No, I guess mine was Davy and Goliath before VeggieTale, but you talked a bit about Father Rob. The next big thing, let's talk about some of the next big things coming up in the Diocese of Camden here. We got it's Labor Day is approaching. Can't believe it already. So we're going to have a few things coming up in September. The Vitality Milestone Mass, September 15th at St. Joachim Parish, part of St. Joachim Parish's Annunciation Church in Belmar. So for anybody who's a nonagenarian, 90 years and beyond, or a centenarian, 100 years and beyond, come out for this Mass to be recognized. It's at 3 p.m. on Sunday, September 15th, followed by light reception. And all are welcome. Come on and celebrate this celebration. And remember, those individuals and who they have a lot of wisdom to offer. They have a lot of life experience and just any questions, contact Anne Marie Perillo in the Office of Vitality, Catholic Healthcare Services, who will be sponsoring this Mass. Vitality Catholic Healthcare is a ministry of the Diocese of Camden. And Mike, we have... let's not get to... We're going to talk about Man Up, but the... First off, the JFA is coming up, October 3rd.
Yeah. Catholic Charities annual awards dinner this year honoring Cardinal Luis Tagle, the Archbishop of Manila, and the president of Caritas International, a sister organization of Catholic Charities. He's been doing great work all over the world. Really bringing to light difficult times for the poor and needy every place, not just the Philippines where he's from, but across the globe. This will be my fourth year taking part in it, and each year it's gotten better and better, and it's wonderful that Cardinal Tagle could make himself available to us to come. And we're really what we've seen so far this year is a huge uptick in the Filipino community who's coming out. So we actually had to change rooms at resorts to accommodate everybody, so we're very excited about that. Yeah, it's good times. Yeah, really. Yeah. So it's moving out of the Superstar Theater and into a room across the hall that can hold up to about 700 people. So we're very excited about it. Yeah. So we're hoping everyone will go out and get their tickets before we run out. And soon to be announced, I think probably in the next edition of the Catholic Star Herald, are all of the Disciples of Mercy who have been chosen for this year. It's a good group. I can tell you that there may be a couple of Vinelanders in it, so you should be aware of that at some point, Father.
Oh, wonderful.
I don't even know who nominated. I'm not sure who nominated. I don't think it came out of any of the parishes specifically, but we got a couple of Islanders in there. So as soon as everyone is officially notified, we'll put out the press release about that so they can see amongst their neighbors who is being awarded as a disciple of mercy. These people who are just doing these things for the sake of doing them. They don't want any notoriety, but darn it, we're going to give them some notoriety anyway because
You're darn tootin'.
that's right. I think people need to know all the good work that's going on in South Jersey. So you can go to catholiccharities.camden.org/JFA 2019 to learn more. And eventually when those names are announced, they'll be located there as well. And certainly to buy tickets as well. And there are discounted hotel rooms. It's taking place at Resorts Hotel in Atlantic City on October 3rd. And you can get discounted rooms, which I think I'm going to do this year. Because last year I didn't. And boy, I was tired driving home. So I could use a shorter.
That's a late night. It's later than you expect.
It is. I mean, we do a really good job of wrapping it up by 9 a.m. But then, you got to go back to wherever you came from.
9 p.m. you mean?
What did I say, 9 a.m.? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, if it was 9 a.m., I'd die. Yeah, we wrap it up at 9 p.m. And but then there's always the breakdown and stuff for the rest of us. But no, it should be a good night, so I hope people will come out. Yeah. And the food is always great. Oh, and I can tell you that because we're honoring a Filipino, we are the dessert. Well, I don't have the name in front of me, but it will be a Filipino dessert with dinner. And I've never had a bad Filipino dessert, so I'm very much looking forward to it. So
It sounds delicious.
yeah, it is delicious. Well, that's the Filipino desserts I've had so far have all been delicious, so I have to imagine this will be too.
So thanks, Mike, and I hope to see you all on October 3rd, and can't wait for that announcement soon in the Star Herald with the Disciples of Mercy.
Yeah.
Exciting. And then 3 days after that will be the Diocesan Hispanic Celebration once again, Sunday, October 6th. This is going to be held at Divine Mercy Parish in Vineland from 3 to 6 p.m., and Bishop Sullivan will celebrate Mass. This is the theme this year is creating a culture of encounter. Of course, Pope Francis, his papacy, one of the main themes, if not the main theme, he's wanted to create a culture of encuentro, which is encounter. And I've been fortunate enough that the Hispanic community around the world has been going through the Quinto Encuentro the last couple of years. And I've been fortunate to work with Andre de Sanango, a few others to different places. I went to the regional, I think the state encuentro in New Jersey, and they've had basically they're working with this theme, creating a culture of encounter and among the community. So come on out. This is Vineland from 3 to 6 p.m. with Bishop Sullivan at Divine Mercy Parish, followed by refreshments and fellowship, so all are welcome. This is again Sunday, October 6th. For more info, contact Norma Guzman in the Office of Hispanic Ministries at 856-583-6181. And then, Mike, we've talked about this before. This is great. This is the Man Up Conference coming back to the diocese once again on November 9th this year.
Yeah. It's manupsouthjersey.com for tickets and information. There'll be a number of good presenters this year, and there's going to be 3 breakout sessions during the lunch period for people to really. It'll be good workshop time to talk to other attendees and some of our workshop leaders about things that are, sort of red flag issues in the church right now. And one of the things, the Catholic Church has been sort of faced with is people leaving the Catholic Church and or saying to Catholics when they meet them, why are you still Catholic? One of the breakout sessions is going to specifically deal with that. So help to give you some ammunition when people sort of come after you for being a Catholic in the difficult times we've been through in the last year or 20 years or 50 years, depending on how you define it. Yeah. So, but anyway, go to manupsouthjersey.com to learn more and to buy tickets.
Yeah,
and if you're down the shore, I think they're renting a bus to bring people up because it'll be it's going to be held at Paul VI High School in Haddonfield or Haddon Township. And we know it's kind of a long drive, so people down in the Cape May County area, they're putting together a bus to bring you north. So you can learn more about that by talking to Kevin Quinn at Notre Dame de la Mer Parish.
Yeah, that's good. And all these and more announcements can be found on CamdenDecideDiocese.org, right-hand side, click on the calendar. All good things coming up, but we're here.
But of course, one of the most important events is coming up too, because of where we are today here at Padre Pio Parish.
I didn't know if we were going to lead that later in the conversation.
Why would we bury it?
Why wait?
Yeah, I think we probably should have
not.
led with it, honestly. But all right.
I'm sorry, Padre.
It's okay.
We're here with Father Rob Sinatra. And so, what's coming up here at Padre Pio next month?
Oh, nothing. No, we have our 17th annual Padre Pio Festival. That's on Sunday, September the 22nd, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it starts with procession and Mass at 11 a.m. And flows right into just Italian culture, faith, food, fellowship, really wonderful, wonderful things.
Yeah.
We have Mass in Italian at 2 p.m. So for all the paesani that want to come in and celebrate Mass in their native tongue, they're more than welcome to do so. Also, we're doing a couple other things leading up to that. One of the first things I started after I was here for about a year is we have Festival Week. Festival Week is from September the 16th to the 21st. Just things every evening to help promote the spirituality of Padre Pio. So we have our kickoff Mass on Monday evening, September the 16th at 7 p.m. here in Parish. And then from Tuesday to Thursday, we have the Novena at 7 p.m. here in the Parish. And then on the 20th, we're actually having a holy hour for young people, young adults, and families.
Yeah.
The 21st, after the 5 o'clock Mass, we're going to have a community night. We're going to have wiffle ball games.
Wow.
And
I love this.
Fireworks.
Oh.
So we're rocking and rolling. So there's a lot of things for people to be involved in, not just the festival that day. Please come to the festival, by the way. And Padre Fortunato, I talked to him yesterday. He's going to be coming. He'll be our homilist for the Italian Mass. He, as a very, very young person, got to spend some time with Padre Pio. And it's his job, even though he's Superior Pietrelcina, to help promote the spirituality of Padre Pio throughout the whole entire world. So that's
great.
Pretty big deal, McNeil.
That is a big deal. But I love that Saturday night festivities. That really sounds great. I mean, anytime you have wiffle ball, that's going to be a good night.
And then
ending with fireworks.
That sounds perfect.
And like everything that goes around here, it usually there's usually some form of food revolving around everything.
Of course.
Like that's the thing about the Padre Pio Festival. As you drive up to it, I think you can smell it before you can see it.
Oh, absolutely. We have we're going to have a sit down pasta dinner for anybody who wants to sit down in Rosary Hall and kind of take a load off. Mm-hmm. But of course, we'll always have our staples. We'll always have the sausage and peppers. We'll always have the pork sandwiches, the porchetta sandwiches that everybody loves. There will be adult beverages and beverages that the young people can enjoy as well. So there's a lot of things happening. There is a big change this year, and it's important to let everybody know that we are having a $20 cooler fee, outside food fee. So if you're bringing a cooler, if you're bringing outside food, there's a $20 fee to bring that in.
That's sensible, I suppose. There you go.
Don't want to be the bad guy, but is it a spiritual event? Yes. Is it a community event? Yes. Is it to celebrate Italian culture? Yes. But it's also a major fundraiser for the parish and helps us throughout the whole entire year. So
no, that's totally understandable. I completely understand that. Although, once again, though, I personally would be befuddled because I don't know why you would bring your own food when the food here is so great. I mean, I love coming to the festival because the food is so good.
Well, when you're a little bit older and the weather might be a little hot and you don't want to get up and lose your seat because there's always going to be somebody who wants to take your seat after you get up from it.
That is very true. And
you want to sit and listen to the music and you don't want to get up and wait in line and all that kind of stuff. There's rationale behind it. And I get that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But, Bill's got to get paid.
That's true, too. That's true, too. Well, we're very excited about that coming up, and I certainly hope I don't know what my schedule is for that week, but I certainly hope I can come down and take part because I love it.
That'd be awesome. You guys are always welcome.
I'm 99% sure I was here last year. I think I was here last year. I think I came last year.
Was poured last year.
I think I came the year before.
Okay.
Because I don't remember it raining.
I remember I came. That was a fun time. Talked to some Knights of Columbus, met them, and it was raining. It was raining, but still beautiful. And are you going to have the? Last year you had the outdoor. What is it? The screen for the out.
We will have audio. We don't have the screen this year.
Oh no, for the mass, like the out.
Right.
People, if there was an overflow.
Well, as we all know, the words are more important anyway, so that's fine. We don't need to see your mug. Although I will say that I very much enjoy watching it on Facebook. Matter of fact, you have this is also a shrine to Padre
We are
Pio.
Newly minted.
That's right.
It'll be almost our year anniversary of being named a diocesan shrine to St. Pio Pietrelcina.
And I think my favorite part of that was that you now have a dedicated Facebook page specific to that as well.
Absolutely.
Which I very much enjoy. You will oftentimes. Do you record them or do you Facebook Live?
I live them.
I love that you Facebook Live your homilies. That is an absolute joy for me. I kind of wish more. Well, let me rephrase that. I was about to say I wish more priests would do that, but I'm not sure every priest would be great at that. But you, on the other hand, are very good at that because being a good Italian man yourself, there's a lot of movement. It's not just you standing in front of a camera.
I appreciate that.
Yes, I like that a lot. So if you haven't been to the Shrine's Facebook page, check it out and learn more. And by all means, come down and see Father Sinatra when he has the Mass. Matter of fact, my wife was not too long ago. My wife was like, Mike, I need a Father Sinatra homily. And so we made the pilgrimage down.
I remember
just
that.
to get
I remember
a
that.
Father Sinatra.
I remember that.
Homily. That was very
You
nice.
humble me. I'm just,
Nice.
I'm just a parish priest. I'm nothing special.
You're
Trust
a little
me.
special. You're a little
Jesus is more special than I am.
That is also true.
You just have to. It was interesting. I'm reading the life of Christ by soon to be beatified, blessed Fulton J. Sheen.
Yes.
And I've watched the Fulton Sheen Foundation has a video on him, like a documentary. And even he, as wonderful as he was, always worried about being a cult of personality, just saying too much. And that's a danger for anybody, because when you're up there and you're in front of all those people, you got to be careful. And, sometimes we do much better with it than others. So, just kind of.
It's, that's something that's absolutely true. And I do see a lot of people fall into that trap where you forget your purpose. Like, all right, so this is a, pokey little podcast. But, somebody said to me once, he goes,
award-winning.
That's
award-winning
right.
podcast.
No, this is not an award-winning podcast. Pete and Lori have an award-winning podcast. We're only award-winning adjacent. But somebody referred to me as like a podcast celebrity at some point. I was like, first of all, that's a joke. And second of all, I mean, it really did happen, but it is a joke that anyone would actually use those words. But when we talk about the podcast, I always tell people it's not about Pete and I, it's about the guests we have on. So in this case, it's about you. So just accept it. But but I think it's important to remember that in our daily life all the time that it's never about us. It's not about us.
John the Baptist, by the way, if you don't know, when we never really say when we record anything, but today is the passion or the beheading of John the Baptist. Mm-hmm. And his great phrase is, I must decrease and he must increase. So we're the other way around. He must increase, I must decrease. So that's the whole thing. Everything that we do has to be for the glory of God. If not, we're working at cross purposes.
And that's kind of a good transition into one of the reasons we wanted to have you on this week, not just to promote the Padre Pio Festival, but also because recently there was a Pew report that said, what was it, 70% of Catholics don't believe in transubstantiation, that what they receive on Sunday is the actual body and blood of Christ. And there was a lot of debate that came out after that occurred as to where did we as Catholics go wrong, Catholic leaders go wrong in helping the rank and file Catholic understand exactly what the Eucharist is. So my first question to you is this. So what's the Eucharist again?
Well, the Eucharist is the source and summit of all grace. As Catholics, we're not Catholic without it. Mm-hmm. It is literally the body and blood, soul and divinity of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. It looks like bread, tastes like bread, looks like wine, tastes like wine. But through the words of consecration, even though the priest is unworthy, it's in persona Christi. Christ comes in and transforms that. transforms the substance, hence the name transubstantiation, into literally his body and blood. And it's not a symbol. It's not something to help us remember or recall or anything like that.
Yep.
It's actually him. And we know how it's actually him. Read John chapter 6, right? The bread of life discourse, where it's like, no, guys, you don't understand. My flesh is real food, and my blood is real drink. If whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood will have my life within them.
Yeah.
Right? It's real food, real drink. And it's like, and you can even see that people are scratching their heads. Some of the disciples are scratching, wait, you actually want us to eat you, right? You're actually saying that you're giving us how can you give us your flesh to eat? You're only like, I don't know what Jesus's dimensions were. The Shroud of Turin says how tall he was and approximately how much he weighed and all that kind of fun stuff. But there's only so much of you. Like, how are we going to eat you?
Right.
Like, that's weird. And many of them, like, this teaching is hard. Who can accept it? And like, it's one of the saddest lines of all of sacred scripture. And many of them return to their former ways of life. Yeah. Like, they're there. They get it. Like, they understand that Jesus is someone special. Right? He's telling them that, he uses that term, I am, and in very real terms, which is the translation of God's holy name. I am who am. So it's like, before the world began, I am, and they're like, whoa, no, come on. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So like, he's literally walking them through it to help them. Like, he's primed them all this time, and now he's walking them through it, and it's like, ta-da, and they're like, no, we're not going to follow that.
And what's so bizarre, taking it back to today's day and age, and maybe it's because we haven't done a good job of educating people. I have on this podcast routinely commented that my formation was terrible, which is no slight to my grade school or my high school or my parents. It's just I never thought that I had a particular, like, as compared to other people I meet. Like, I never felt like my formation is particularly good. But in the years since, it's gotten better. And then, so you look at the Mass itself, right? So it's two parts, the Liturgy of the Word and the Liturgy of the Eucharist, which, I mean, if they dedicated half of every Mass, essentially, specifically to the Eucharist, it's kind of an important element to our daily and weekly needs, right? And then when you also factor in that you're only supposed to go for communion if you're in a particular state of grace. So if you're a sinner, don't go, because you're not worthy enough to receive.
Well, slow down, slow your roll.
Well, those are my two elements. You expound.
All right, so all of us are sinners, right? And the Eucharist does actually absolve of venial sin. Right. If you're in serious or grave matter, like mortal sin, right? then those are the things that you need to go to confession,
right? Or
if you can't, you do a sincere act of contrition, receive our Lord in the Eucharist, and get your tuchus as quickly as humanly possible to confession as you can,
right?
So.
But that's just it. I mean, that's my point, though, is that I felt we did a pretty good job. Like, even to this day, like, if I feel that I'm not in a proper state of grace to receive communion, I won't receive. And I know it befuddles Jack from time to time, but it's like, dude, I gotta go somewhere before I go to communion. And my wife is the same way, and I think. My worry has always been that general Catholics or your typical Catholic is more like, well, I got to go to Sunday Mass and get my cracker. Like, they don't understand the reverence.
I think there's lots of reasons for that. I think if we want to do an overarching theme of how the church has failed in this regard, is that there's been a lack of consistency. Is there a catechetical crisis? Yes. Why? Because there's been a lack of consistency in catechesis, right? It's unfortunate that not all priests believe the same things or teach the same things as the church intends. Once again, a lack of consistency. Even good and faithful priests, when we go to celebrate the Mass, right, there is a lack of consistency at times about how Mass is properly celebrated or not.
Yeah.
All of this is a lack of consistency. And I think also too, things that I've talked about to the people is that sometimes we've assumed it is given. Like, you should know this already, right? And take it, and we take it for granted.
What about because I know I go to different masses, and I guess I learned communion in the hand, where the priest, the body of Christ, and then you put it in your hand, and then you take it from your hand. But then there are others, particularly traditional rite masses, where it's on the mouth, where you just open your mouth and the priest puts it on your tongue. Mm-hmm. Is there a right or wrong? Like, those two are acceptable, right? I mean, that's the word I can think of, acceptable right now.
Without getting into the weeds of the strong feelings that many people have in terms of the reception and the proper way of reception of Most Holy Communion, if we go to the general instruction of the Roman Missal, that there are two appropriate ways. The first way that is mentioned is on the tongue, and then the second is in the hand. Now, how that happened is a story for another day and a history lesson that I don't think it is my job to teach at this point in time. I will tell you that during my time in Rome, whenever I helped out at any papal event or papal ceremony, that the only way that communion was distributed was on the tongue. We were told flat out, not in the hand.
Really?
Well, because what happens is that, and one of the issues and concerns is when you have communion in the hand, it can lead to abuse.
Yes.
Right? You have people there are people that come in and they make a throne for God in their hands, and they receive reverently, and they realize that Jesus is in their midst, right? Mm-hmm. They're holding on to something precious. There are other people that unfortunately maybe poorly catechized or whatever. It's, as someone who I oftentimes quote would say, they come up and receive it like it's a potato chip. It's not. And then there are others, unfortunately, that have nefarious purposes of what they want to do for the Blessed Sacrament.
Right.
And they will take it, and they'll always receive it in the hand so that they can pocket it or use it for something else, right, which is not good. That's why, I don't know, we talked about this before on the podcast. I always keep my head on a swivel, and you always got to keep mindful. And I talked to the extraordinary ministers of communion, all the deacons, the priests, you got to pay attention, because if not, somebody's going to take Jesus for a walk, and we don't need anybody. Jesus is already everywhere. Nobody has to take him for a little trip.
And my church has people on guard for that occasion.
Yeah, my church growing up had the same thing, because we had that happen. We had somebody walk out with the Eucharist, and they had to be.
Do you know that's like if I have, I'm recovering from a heart condition, right, and I take medication for it daily. There's nothing that puts fear and dread in a priest's heart than when somebody takes Jesus for a ride.
Yeah.
Or when, Father, we found a host on the floor, and you're just like, oh no. It's like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Kills you.
And if you drop the host, you're supposed to pick it up and consume it, correct?
Well, the priest is.
The priest. So, if you gave me communion, it dropped on the floor.
Then it's my job to pick it up.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, other people do it, but if we're talking to be technical, it should be the minister that picks up the host. So that way, and what'll happen is I'll stand over that spot, not directly on it, because I'll straddle the spot, then ask the altar server to get a purificator, lay that purificator down, then I can pour water on it and purify that spot. So that no one gets left behind. Jesus should not be left behind. Any piece of Jesus should not be left behind.
And that goes back to this unfortunate and probably accurate survey that came out that I think people don't fully understand. That like it's not a small deal. It is a big deal. It's not just something that's fallen to the floor, and even by the fact that it's on the floor, there are still elements of it that will remain even after it being picked up. So it does have to be purified. It's I mean, maybe if they. All right, tell me if this is true. I'm certain that it is, but I've actually never. I don't think I've ever got it confirmed. I just remember from my youth, for cleaning out the vessels, there's a special sink in a church, right?
Called a sacrarium.
And it doesn't go into the pipes of the sewer system.
No, it does not. It goes directly into the ground.
It goes directly into the ground, right? Because that is the only appropriate way of cleaning a vessel that once had Christ in it.
Right. Well, I mean, what happens, what we do is. Our sacrarium may or may not work, so we don't use it. So what we'll do is the priest or the deacon, who are the only ones who are validly allowed to purify vessels, will use water and purificators. Then what'll happen is that we have very nice volunteers that take the purificators, corporals, finger towels, whatever, okay, and they soak them in water. And soak them and soak them and soak them and soak them and soak them. And then they pour the water out because you want to make sure anything that is constitutive of the Eucharist is broken down.
Right.
And then they pour it out in the ground, in their garden, whatever,
back to the earth, back to Christ.
Right, exactly.
Back to God.
And then from there, then you can launder them normally.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a sacrarium, that's what you kind of do.
So there are all these rather specific kind of wide-ranging elements to having the Eucharist in our lives, and I think a lot of people just don't realize there are a lot of hurdles to get God to come to us. Need a priest, need to know how to do it right, need to have the Mass, and then afterwards, there's a lot of cleanup because it's a thing. It's real. It's not a host. It's not a piece of cracker. It's not unleavened bread.
Right.
It's Christ.
And I think that's where, I struggle, not so much with the real presence, but just with faith. And I think that's what it comes down to. We need to enter into the mystery, so to speak, of...
Yeah, I blame Hollywood for some of this. And here's my thinking about it, as we are all Marvel fans. I'll blame Marvel. It's not really Marvel's fault, but it's Hollywood's fault. We've kind of been programmed to believe that great things come with moments, explosions, fireworks, bright sunshine, stuff like that. And for the most part, with the exception of the flood, there hasn't, and the burning bush, there really hasn't been a lot of that. None of it since Christ came 2,000 years ago. God works very subtly. He doesn't need a flash of light to suddenly turn things from simple bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ. And I think in our day and age, we think that there's supposed to be this greatness. But if you look at natural law all around us, it's subtle and quiet and small and most of the time hidden. So we shouldn't be expecting these wonder moments to occur in these special times. God coming into these things through the work of the priest is enough.
And I think too, you're right. We shouldn't expect.
Although an explosion
that.
would be nice.
Huh.
Yes.
Well, there is
You're right.
grace, but you just can't see it.
You just can't see it, right?
Well, I think it goes back to the understanding. People want an answer for everything. People want understanding for everything, and
I'm a science guy. I do, but I'm not a member of it, but I follow it. The Catholic Scientists Association, and there is. The beauty of our existence is that there is so much that's a mystery to us, not just in the natural world, but obviously with God as well. And that's a beautiful thing. That doesn't discount the fact that we can't quantify God's presence in our midst through scientific reasoning. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. He doesn't exist.
Exactly.
If anything, it adds to my curiosity.
Well, I mean, and also too, just because science can't answer it doesn't mean that there isn't a connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things. Like it's all this either or mentality. They automatically think because it's faith, because it's it's a religion because it's about God. That while there is mystery and there is an earthrealness to it, and there is something that's transcendent about it, there's also some, or not some, there is very much logic, philosophy, reality embedded in what we believe in faith. In our slight, pre-production meeting before we started talking about our favorite cartoons and toys from growing up, Pete asked to talk about a very, very real distinction. That you had a question. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, well, the question can you distinguish between the phrase, substance and accidents?
Okay.
Can we talk about that?
And that's the basis of reality, because substance and accidents is metaphysics. And what is metaphysics but the study and understanding of existence and being?
Yeah.
Right? So what a thing is. That's metaphysics. It's not like, well, what do we believe it to? It's, well, whatever you believe, or whatever makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. No, of course not. Don't be ridiculous, right?
Yep.
So it's and unfortunately it's what our culture. Well, it's whatever's good for you.
Right.
That's tends to be the prevailing thought. When we talk about the Eucharist, it's all grounded in reality and existence. So. All right, so very, very quickly, and as hopefully as simply as I can, right? Substance is what a thing is. Accidents are the quality of that thing, okay? We're all men, right? So we're all men, but we're different heights, we're different weights, right? Our maleness, right? Or even, it won't get bare bones, our humanity is a substance. We're human beings. We're human persons. That's who and what we are, right? But we have different qualities. We have height, weight, depth, different hair color. Some of us happen to have a little bit more gray than others, right? We all have different eye colors, all those things. Those are accidental qualities. So if we were to take a look at like pre-consecration, then post-consecration. So pre-consecration is that you've got these unleavened pieces of bread. So wheat, water, basta così, right? That's it.
Yes.
And then you have wine, right, which is fruit of the vine. So it has to be from grapes. So it's fermented grape, and it has to have a certain alcohol content so that, it's actual wine. So it looks like bread and tastes like bread. It looks like wine and tastes like wine, because that's what exactly those things are. They're bread and wine. So on the level of substance, there is bread, and a level of substance, there is wine. And then the accidental qualities are the qualities of breadness and the qualities of wineness. Even alcohol content is considered the quality of wineness, right?
Yeah.
So it's tasty wineness. Although I have to say that there are some altar wines that if I never, ever, 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 ever have to encounter ever again, I'm going to be totally okay. Like there's a particularly one that I do not like called Golden Tokay, and it looks like it's almost brown. And it's like my first assignment, I'm like, I think the case of this is bad. Can we get something else? Can we try something else? It was really bad. Oh, it's terrible. Anyhow, I digress. So then the priest, in persona Christi capitis, right? In the person of Christ as head, through the words of consecration, intending what the church intends, right? To confect the Eucharist, to make Jesus, to call him down, right? So that he can lift us up. By the way, if anybody wants to see like really like deep dive about the Mass, Ascension Press Alteration, Father Michael Schmitz does there's like an hour, just a little over an hour video on the Mass itself.
Really?
Phenomenal
I'll have to check that out.
To walk you through it.
You know what, Pete? In the notes, see if you can find the URL address for that, or a connection for that, and we'll put it in the notes.
Sure.
Good
Father
stuff.
Mike Schmitz.
Right.
You can't go wrong with him.
No. And So what happens is the words of consecration, like if you take a look at it in terms of the Eucharistic prayer, they're the words of consecration. Take this, all of you, and eat of it, for this is my body, which will be given up for you. Right, and then we have an elevation. Right, so the elevation is the host is elevated. Right, it's high, everybody can see it. Right, thank you, Jansenism. And then it comes all the way back down and places on the paten, which is our Lord's throne, the paten. Mm-hmm. We don't know when, but sometimes between the lifting up and the putting down, as soon as it's put down, you know that Jesus is there. Right, and especially in the Ciboria, which the priest has to particularly intend to consecrate. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the wine. Take this, all of you, and drink from it, for this is the chalice of my blood, the blood of the new and eternal covenant, which will be poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. Do this in memory of me. Up, down, right?
Sorry, I didn't.
Go ahead.
What is the significance of the bells in those instances?
I made a quick joke that we talked about the concept of Jansenism. Now remember when the Mass was according to the Tridentine form, where the priests and the people were facing the same direction. Jansenism is kind of like a spin-off of Manichaeistic dualism, that everything physical is bad, everything spiritual is good. Nothing new under the sun. So what happens is that people thought that they were so unworthy that they couldn't receive the Eucharist at all. So you had people for like every Sunday not receiving our Lord in the Eucharist. So what happened is that there were so many people that weren't, that they had to let people know when Jesus was present, even though they weren't receiving it. So that's where the elevation comes from, and that's also where the bells come from.
That was one of the first things I learned as an altar boy. It's when to ring the bells and when not to.
Well, Jackson altar boy now, and that's the one thing where he'll go, like if he's with us in the congregation, and somebody else is being an altar server and they don't do it right, he always leans over and goes, "They didn't do that right."
I think also too, like everybody, like the altar servers, like there's some places, and that's once we talked about the concept of consistency, because you've got some parishes that will ring the bells, and then some that won't. But there's that deep history about it that's even continued over to the Novus Ordo, the new Mass. So getting back to the whole concept of substance and accents, a little spin-off, but that's the whole thing. Like the bells are there to let you know that something significant has happened and changed. Yeah. Right? That something else is entirely different now. Yeah. That wasn't there, that was not there before. So what happens is that it still has the accidental qualities of breadness and wineness. Right? Looks like bread and tastes like bread. Looks like wine and tastes like wine. Once it'll still have the alcoholic content of wine. A brief story. Cardinal Bevilacqua's Mass on his 80th birthday, right? When he's now no longer a voting member in the conclave. So there's a big Mass. They were also, it was right before Cardinal Regali wasn't cardinal yet, but was coming. So they had these gigantic chalices of wine for the consecration. And then afterwards, they still have all of this precious blood that needs to be consumed. So I'm a transitional deacon at this point. I'm not a priest yet. So they grab all the transitional deacons that are there from all the dioceses and archdioceses that used St. Charles Seminary. And then they bring us to the side altar, and they're like, okay, we got to consume all of this precious blood, because you can't pour it down the drain. Yeah. Right? And also, too, technically speaking, you should not pour consecrated wine down a sacrarium, right? You should dilute it to the point where it's no longer wine. It breaks down its constitutive elements, and then Jesus goes somewhere, and then you pour it down the sacrarium if you were to do that.
Right.
So we're there drinking. I drank a chalice and a half of Jesus.
Wow.
And so that was equivalent in accidental qualities only, right, to about, I don't know, maybe like 3 glasses of wine in like 45 seconds. I had to walk up and down the parkway from the cathedral to the art museum 3 times before I could even sit down and get something to eat. It was that bad.
I believe it.
But so that aside, so those accidental qualities still remain, but on the level of substance, it's no longer bread and wine. It's the actual body and blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus.
Okay, I like it.
How important? Because one of the things with the real presence that I've gotten to really, one of the ways that I see Jesus more in that real presence is through adoration. How important, and you talked about that. I was very happy to hear that you're doing Holy Hour for Youth. Would you say that is, maybe that can be a way to help more people understand?
I think so. When I first posted the article, which came off of National Catholic Register, and Bishop Barron being so devastated by this, and him word on fire and all that kind of stuff. So one of my parishioners messaged me via the parish Facebook page, and they're an anonymous, so it just says Facebook user, and you can't respond back to them. And they're like, well, Father, instead of... Actually, I can pull it up. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick.
See, I love the power of technology. I had to, on the way down today, I had to pull off to the side of the road and write something real quick. And I was able to do it in a strip mall a little bit up the road as I was working on my laptop and my phone. I was very proud. Thank you, Silicon Valley.
Even like 20 years ago, you probably couldn't do that.
Let's see. I wrote my first press release on vacation from a cabana in Jamaica in 2002. So I've at least been able to do it for 17 years. And I did that on an old BlackBerry. So
wow.
It was doable. So here we go.
Just a thought. With the sharing of the Pew Research on Eucharistic Belief, that might be a prime time to advertise and teach about adoration, available on Tuesdays, so the chapel is no longer empty. Reparations can be made for the lack of belief, and the graces can flow. And just shared with hope at the possibilities, not in a know-it-all way. That might not be clear. Apologies. So, with this person's kind of spurring on, the thing is, don't have just adoration on Tuesdays. Have adoration Monday through Friday. So starting on September the 2nd in the parish, we're having adoration from 9 a.m. in the morning till 5 p.m. at night. Now, the big deal is trying to get people to fill in spots, and I'm trying to hammer that to get people to sign up and such. Because, what happens is if Jesus is alone, you have to put him away.
Yeah,
right. You just can't have exposition and not have anybody there. So we're going to try and see what's out there and push and fill in the gaps. So that's because you have to give people an opportunity to pray.
Yeah.
An opportunity to experience one-on-one time with Jesus. Adoration is super important.
It's probably, certainly the Mass will always be primary, but of any Catholic opportunity I can avail myself of, I will say that I think adoration, if there's such a thing as Catholic favorites, I think that might be my favorite thing to attend. I just to sit there in peace in front of God and have a conversation.
I know I've said this before. It's radiation therapy.
Yeah.
Right? Jesus' love radiates through us, and it burns through all the junk that's in our lives. and allows us to get to share in his love and his peace. So
we need to keep that. We need to store that. What he just said, we need to put that somewhere.
We put it on the podcast.
Of course, but we block it out. I'm serious.
That was not that was something that somebody said on a retreat. I just stole it. Remember, there's no copyrights in terms of Catholic priests and homilies. So to everybody out there, all those aspiring seminarians who are going to be priests someday, and all those guys who are priests out there that happen to listen to this podcast, steal. Just not like in like a Ten Commandments sense.
Yeah.
But like you hear something that's good, that's efficacious, right? That's something that you can reuse as part of a homily.
Or if you want to use a different word than steal, amplify. It's
repeat.
Yeah. Be organic. Give attribution when necessary and possible. But by all means, if you hear great ideas, share them.
Yeah.
That gets away from the cult of personality.
Absolutely.
It's like it puts it into the ether for all of us.
Yeah, I think, and talking about adoration, I love how we've been doing. Donna Taviano Britt in Missionary Discipleship has done holy hours every
that's been
every
nice.
month, and
apparently well attended. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, the next one is September 11th at Ocean City at St. Damien, holy hours. So come out for more info on that. That's, my church has perpetual adoration, and unfortunately, I used to have an assigned time, but God forgive me, it was from like midnight. No, it was like the middle of the night, like I think 3 to 4 a.m. And God forgive me, I just couldn't do it anymore. But I do miss that time because I think I probably need to sign up just to force myself to go to adoration. I'm sorry, Father Tim, my pastor, who's been on the show before. Father Tim's great.
He is. He's a good and holy man.
But adoration and just giving us the opportunity to spend time with our Lord is always, it's just so necessary. Padre Pio has talking about the Mass, about adoration, whatever, about the Eucharist. He has this great quote: "It is easier for the earth to survive without the sun than for us to survive without Mass." Because we have the Eucharist, and it's just so important. So important.
So we're going to transition into a conversation that occurred prior to the start of this podcast, but we recorded it, and it goes off into another tangent, which I'll let everyone listen to right now. But yeah. So thank you very much, Father, for this and giving us a little bit more perspective on the Eucharist. And for everyone who wants to stick around a little longer, we do a deep dive on baseball and comics and things that occurred in our youth and toys that we played with. And I think you'll enjoy that conversation too, particularly if you're an old millennial or Gen Xer like Pete. So anyway.
So to end it, can I do Padre Pio's prayer after communion?
Absolutely.
It's called the Stay. It's affectionately known as Stay With Me. Stay with me, Lord. Okay. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Stay with me, Lord, for it is necessary to have you present, so that I do not forget you. You know how easily I abandon you. Stay with me, Lord, because I am weak, and I need your strength, that I may not fall so often. Stay with me, Lord, for you are my life, and without you I am without fervor. Stay with me, Lord, for you are my light, and without you I am in darkness. Stay with me, Lord, to show me your will. Stay with me, Lord, so that I hear your voice and follow you. Stay with me, Lord, for I desire to love you very much and always be in your company. Stay with me, Lord, if you wish me to be faithful to you. Stay with me, Lord, for as poor as my soul is, I want it to be a place of consolation for you, a nest of love. Stay with me, Jesus, for it is getting late, and the day is coming to a close, and life passes. Death, judgment, eternity approaches. It is necessary to renew my strength so that I will not stop along the way, and for that I need you. It is getting late, and death approaches. I fear the darkness, the temptations, the dryness, the cross, the sorrows. Oh, how I need you, my Jesus, in this night of exile. Stay with me tonight, Jesus, in life with all its dangers. I need you. Let me recognize you as your disciples did at the breaking of the bread, so that the Eucharistic communion be the light which disperses the darkness, the force which sustains me, the unique joy of my heart. Stay with me, Lord, because at the hour of my death I want to remain united to you, if not by communion, at least by grace and love. Stay with me, Jesus. I do not ask for divine consolation, because I do not merit it, but the gift of your presence. Oh yes, I ask this of you. Stay with me, Lord, for it is you alone I look for, your love, your grace, your will, your heart, your spirit, because I love you and ask no other reward but to love you more and more. With a firm love, I will love you with all my heart while on earth and continue to love you perfectly during all eternity. Amen.
So, Father Rob and Mike, how about those Phillies last night? 12-3, big win. They're coming back.
Pete, I love you, Pete, with all my heart. But I want to tell you that the Phillies are going nowhere, and nowhere fast. One word: pitching. They don't have it, and they desperately, desperately, desperately need it. If I have to see Pivetta, and even though Velasquez pitched okay, and Eflin, no, Pete, it's just not their year.
Unless, of course, they roll out Roman Quinn every day. I mean, he had one good game and one bad game in relief. I love watching position players pitch. It's one of my favorite things.
Oh, did you see the Dodgers?
Yeah, the catcher.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Russell Martin?
Yeah, I watched that. That was amazing.
He's had 4 scoreless innings as a reliever.
I knew we should have picked him up on the free agent market.
Oh, he's a bad attitude. He's a bad attitude.
He has a bad attitude, but I just enjoy watching him play so much.
Would you prefer Martin or Realmuto? That's the thing.
I mean, yes, I would prefer Realmuto, of course.
He's been throwing out runners amazingly this year.
He's got a can of an arm.
And he does. And I think, what is that new stat? Every year it seems like baseball comes out with a new stat. Now it's pop time. I don't know what it is to get the ball, then stand up and throw it.
That's right.
Pop time. I forget what his is. But
I just thought that's how much time or money you've spent on Funko.
That too.
I've not spent nearly enough. I only have one Funko.
I remember I got you the Wolverine Funko.
Yes,
that was the pop, and that's the only pop I've ever bought. I haven't. How many do you have?
I've got about 10.
Nice.
See, I think that's a reasonable amount. If you had said I have 150, I would say that'd be overboard.
I had a buddy who had like 50 or 60. He sold it for some of them for good coin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Well, see, I fully I like it with the idea of a financial benefit at the end of it. But I just put stuff on my I ruin the boxes and I throw everything. I'm not a keeper like that.
Yeah, are they bobbleheads?
The Marvel ones are, because there's a difference between the figurines and action figures. So to make it different because of licensing and many of the contracts that Marvel has, the Funko Pops of Marvel characters are all bobbleheads. Everything else, they're all fixed.
Huh, I did not know that.
Are they like vinyl? Like, I've never seen one of these.
They are vinyl.
Really?
They are vinyl.
I'm assuming
they're Vinyl. They're Vinyl
That's
Pops.
Right. That's right.
Vinyl.
As opposed to Mortal Pops.
Watch out! When are those Mortal Pops coming out? That just sounds like a cool name. I want to see Mortal. This sounds like Mortal Kombat or something.
It's serious and grave matter, Pete.
Yeah.
Serious.
Much like Funko Pops.
You know what? Mortal Pops, they would be like the zombie Pops, because you just said they were grave. Wouldn't that be cool?
Okay.
Somebody failed to catch the veiled reference to one of the 3 conditions to commit a mortal sin. It has to be serious or grave matter. You have to know it's serious and grave,
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
have full
serious.
consent
Oh,
of
I
your will.
forgot. Well, no, I understood the grave reference, but the serious, that was pretty good. I like that. But I mean, what did you guys like, Mike? When you were little, did you collect anything?
Not for preservation purposes. Like, I wasn't that kind of a collector. I mean, I had a ton of Star Wars action figures, but all mine, like, if you were to dig them, you would literally have to dig them up because I buried most of them in the dirt because, playing with them outside and stuff like that, they were all missing things. So I wouldn't make a dime on any of the stuff I had growing up.
What about you, Father?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm a kid. You see, even now at 45, you have to understand, if you didn't know this before, my next door neighbor was a toy buyer for JCPenney. So my basement was called the Sea of Toys because I had things that nobody else had. Like, I had the G.I. Joe base. Nobody had the G.I. Joe base. I had, like, a ton of stuff. Like, you name it. Like, you could go to my basement right now, my mom and dad's house, because my niece and my nephews, or my nieces and nephews, still play with all the stuff. I mean, I still have we've got like 5 Millennium Falcons. We only had one AT-AT.
Jealous.
It's missing a leg, but whose AT-AT isn't missing a leg at this point?
Well, that's right. Yeah. Then, I mean, they last a long time and they will hold up. Although I am famous in my family for having broken the shifter on the land speeder that my cousin got in 1979, probably. And 40 years later, still hasn't forgiven me for breaking the shifter on his land speeder. That was a mortifying day for me.
Wow. I had a lot of He-Man too. He-Man, G.I. Joe, Star Wars. What else? Transformers.
Oh, sure. Love the Transformers.
I knew about Transformers the summer before they came out that Christmas.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
My next door neighbor pulled my brother and I aside. He had just gone back from a toy conference in Chicago. He said, "Boys, I've seen the next big thing." I said, "Well, what is it?" He says, "There's these things. They're called Autobots." And he was talking about the advent of Transformers. So
Yeah. That's awesome. I loved it.
I remember I had the Transformers and I had the GoBots. They were kind of
See,
like
the GoBots were the knockoff of the Transformers.
Pretty
I'm actually
much,
not sure which
yeah.
came first.
GoBots came first.
Yeah. So it was the other way
really?
around. But Transformers really were so much farther ahead than the GoBots. I think I had a
Yeah.
GoBot.
If you want to see something interesting, you want to watch something interesting, Netflix has a series called The Toys That Made Us.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And they have they have lots of good episodes. They have ones on He-Man, Star Wars, Star Trek, G.I. Joe. They have a really good one on the Transformers too.
The one that I loved, I have them somewhere in my parents' in a storage, a crawl space in their house, are the Ghostbusters toys that came out like late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, with the
They
cartoon.
made so many, from the cartoon, the real Ghostbusters, because it's funny, the GoBots and Transformers. There was a Filmation Ghostbusters that came out, so the one from the movie called themselves the real Ghostbusters. But I remember I had the firehouse where
Okay.
they were, that Ghostbusters headquarters, and it came with slime, like a package of slime that you poured through a grate that then trickled down. That was like, for a little kid, that was so cool.
Were you a
know.
Slimer, Pete? Was
I
that
was.
you? Did you slime?
I had those little. Well, what did they have? Like they had the Nickelodeon GAC when I was,
Oh, yeah, sure.
but yeah, I do remember the. You would get that slime and it just feel weird in your hand, but then like you'd put it down the drain and you'd get all your characters wet, like your Peter Venkman or Egon. Those were it was just fun. I don't know.
Well, I think you can know. They were fun.
What?
You said, I don't know. And I was like, I think you know.
I'm thinking, I do know. They were, it just, there's just something about being a kid and having, all the Star Wars and the G.I. Joe and it would just.
Were you a
I'd
Lego
beat
kid
them
too,
all
Pete?
up.
Did you do Lego?
Not really. It's, I did some Lego. I didn't really do too much. Now, my nephew is huge into Lego, so it's neat. Like every Christmas and birthday, I get him a Star Wars Lego, which he loves. I kind of feel like the uncle.
You're feeding a habit is what you're doing, Pete. That's okay.
Well, feeding the habit.
You have to indoctrinate. I
Exactly.
worked really, really hard to get my sister's kids first, and then my brother's kids afterwards, addicted to Star Wars.
Me too. I'm trying to. They have not. He can't see really that. He's seen a bit of the Clone Wars. He hasn't seen all the movies yet. He's a little too young.
How old is he?
He is 7.
Okay.
I saw the first Star Wars movie when I was 3.
Yeah, I
wow.
was 5 when I saw the first Star Wars movie. So I don't know if 7 is that young.
Maybe. I think. Well, that I think he's seen some Star Wars. Now the one I want to show him is Marvel, but he's too young for Marvel, especially.
Really? Jack saw his first Marvel movie when he was 7.
Yeah, I don't know.
But then again, apparently I'm a terrible parent. But
You have to prime the pump. Go on and show him episodes of the cartoon Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Yes.
2 seasons, they're 13 episodes apiece. I was really mad when they didn't make season 3.
Yeah.
But they got cut out because that's when the MCU started and all that kind of stuff.
There's another Marvel programming for kids that's even younger. It's almost like, oh God, I wish I could remember what it was called.
Like Superhero Squad or
Yeah, it's
something.
like Superhero Squad. And that was actually what the entry was. Jack was watching that when he was 5. And yeah, I will admit the Marvel movies can from time to time get a little intense, particularly the later movies and the bigger movies. Ant-Man and Wasp you can get away with, and Ant-Man you can get away with. Nothing too grotesque or painful in that. But I do remember when I took Jack to see Guardians Volume 1, and Groot puts his arm through a column of the enemy and started swacking him from wall to wall to wall. I was like, okay, that might have been a bit intense. Just a wee bit, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen some stuff. I showed him the Avengers. They have the cartoons. I think they have Avengers Assemble, the next Avengers. Mm-hmm. I did show him the next Avengers, and he did enjoy that. So I'll show him the Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which was a good show, and I kind of liked the theme song.
It was good.
It had really good. Yeah. All those. That's the thing about the '80s. They had all the best. Silverhawks was a great theme song, or Mask, M-A-S-K.
I remember
was
Mask.
Oh man,
You're going. There's deep dive and nerddom here.
I know. That's what I kind of appreciate those lesser known shows, but and I had the Silverhawks toys too. Those were just cool looking.
I have no memory of
Silverhawks. Well, no. So
it would have been a little. You would have been a teenager, and kind of aged out of that.
Yeah. Okay.
So because there's a little bit of an age difference between you and me. So
2 years between you and I. 10 years between him and I.
Yeah, I know, but still, that's
true. That's an important 2 years in your teen years. That's true.
So this is my geekdom for Silverhawks. So Silverhawks was kind of the same people who did Thundercats,
right?
But it was an intergalactic space force, and basically they found these people to basically I'm saying basically way too much here. They cybernetically, their bodies started to be covered in cybernetics, I think it was, and so they literally turned into they had wings and they could fly. And the coolest though was a guy who was a country
one with the guitar. Seriously,
exactly.
Pete?
And the sonic, he would strum the guitar and be sonic energy would go out. And the bad guy's name was Monstar, S-T-A-R, not.
I don't remember that, Pete. You're way too much into that.
M-O-N-S-T-A-R. There might have been an extra R. But I just look at Silverhawk, you guys are looking at me like I have 4 heads.
Look, just hands down, the greatest cartoon ever, Thundar the Barbarian.
Oh, I don't remember that at all.
You don't remember Thundar the Barbarian? That would have been in your wheelhouse too. That's
probably.
Classic Hanna-Barbara.
No recollection.
That's when
wait.
America was mighty and strong with his Sunblade and Ookla the Muck and Ariel. The best line, they go into a library and Ariel's like, oh, look at all the knowledge. Look at all these people. Look, all these scholars. Thunder turns and says, what does it matter? They are dead and gone. Let us move on.
Yeah, I have no recollection.
He jumps off the Statue of Liberty right onto his horse and then just rides off in stride. That's somebody who's mighty. Thundar the Barbarian.